and welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you by Together 2012 from East London and the West Midlands. With me today in East London in my Cannington studio is our chair, the artist Julie Newman. And in the West Midlands, just recovering from some technical problems, we have.
Yeah, hi, I'm Robin Surgeon, Business Director of Together 2012, also an artist working under the name of Angry Fish. I will describe myself, get it over and done with for you poor folks out there. Today I'm having even longer white hair, ever so slightly tanned, I believe, and I'm wearing a green camouflage-ish t-shirt. There we go.
I am Josh Surgener. I'm also one of the hosts of Together TV, and I am a PhD student studying physiology. And I have long blonde hair, and I'm recently very cleanly shaven because I had a video call exam this morning, which is why I'm also wearing a nice white shirt.
Brilliant, and we'll come back and ask you about that in a minute. So, yes, in terms of our audio description, I'm in my late 50s. I've got short red hennaed hair, which, with the aid of a great deal of Brill cream, is quite neat and tidy. I've got black rimmed glasses, I've got my hands in splints, and I have a white t-shirt that says, let me see if I can get it for the camera, Magic Hour. And in fact, I bought this t-shirt especially to wear on this program because it is a magical hour when we get together and we see friends, old and new, and we see other people's artwork and we share ours. But we also say that actually the internet is magic in itself. I think there's very few people since lockdown that haven't had new technical challenges, whatever that looked like and however good they thought their skills were before. And the number of times we plug in exactly the same setup and it doesn't work till we've redone it about 12 times, we have decided that the internet is actually run on magic. So this is my Magic Hour t-shirt. Julie, do you want to describe yourself?
I've got silver and gold hair. I have dark rimmed glasses, and I'm currently wearing a black t-shirt, very understated, of course.
Yeah, and I have to say, actually, really, you've got nice dark green glasses with little light bits of light green kind of accents. So they're actually very. I always think every time you introduce yourself, I think, no, Julie, you did not just have dark rimmed glasses. I have dark rimmed glasses. You have green rimmed glasses.
I can't see them, Jude, to be honest. I sort of, because they're on my face, so I really can't see them.
Well, that is probably an acceptable excuse, apart from the fact that you do presumably take them on. And well, do you take them off and then you can't see what colour they are anyway? They're very nice indeed. I think we're all missing the opportunity to have eye tests and optical treatment, though. I know only one of my lenses is actually the right prescription, which can be slightly problematic. But enough of this rambling. We are here today as part of Together 2012's Join In From Home programme. It's hosted on our website, together2012.org.uk, and there's a whole host of inclusive and accessible arts activities that you can join in from home, mostly just using things that you already have. We have a range of activities from music, poetry, film, dance, family activities. What am I missing? I know I'm missing dance, all sorts of things. But today, in real life, we would usually be hosting our pop-up poetry club, which meets every Wednesday morning at St Bart's in East Ham. It's part of a year-round outreach programme that we run called the Clubs Programme, which is funded by the Lottery Reaching Communities Fund, to which I have to say thank you very much indeed, and particularly for all the extra support we've been having. So usually on a Wednesday it would be the poetry club. We have different sorts of art sessions on Tuesdays and Fridays. We have a youth together session on Thursdays and Saturdays, and on Mondays we have a range of activities from photography and film through to dance. And I'm delighted to say that finally, and we've been promising this for a long time, the Pop-Up Poetry Club has relaunched as a telephone-based group. So, Julie, how did the first session go?
Oh, well, it was so exciting. It was really, really nice to hear everybody's voices again. and to reconnect. I think it was that in itself would have just been perfect. But to add to that, Alison, who leads the group, who's one of our staff, our programs director, she was able to get everybody to focus in on poems about home. Um, so the first half was everybody joining in, and it was the very first time. So it was a little bit confused at the very beginning, but everybody soon just buckled in and got on with it. It was wonderful. So people read poems that they'd chosen previously about home. Um, and then we had a break. And so for half an hour, everybody went off and wrote their own poem on that theme and came back onto the collective call at 11:30 and read out their poems. I've never failed to be surprised and terribly impressed at the standard of the poetry writing of our guys. Everybody's so different, obviously, because we're all different people. But the quality of the poetry is amazing. I just think it's beautiful. And when we look at the Together Poetry book, I really do think we could actually put out volume 2, 3, 4, and 5 because they're so prolific. Everybody's getting joining the group and just getting on with it.
Yeah, I think it's important to say at this point that everything we do in our club's program is open access. It's free, and we welcome any disabled person and whoever they want to bring with them. And by disabled, we include people with long-term health conditions, mental health difficulties, learning difficulties, physical impairments, and so on and so forth. If you identify as disabled, you are always very welcome. But just before lockdown, in fact, somebody said to me, "Oh, I've been to going to the poetry groups at the library because I didn't think I was good enough to come to you yet." And I was like, no, so I think where people are is because a lot of them have been there for years, but we're very much recruiting new members, aren't we?
We are, and I think the way to join, if you have any interest in joining, it's on a Wednesday morning. You need to get ready at about 10:15, have access to a telephone line or an iPad or an iPhone at 10:30. Join in to read a poem, so have a poem ready to read out.
And that doesn't have to be your own poem.
No.
What we do, in fact, at the in more usual times, we have open poetry shelves and people just browse, pick a book at random, go through that poetry book while they're having a cup of tea or coffee, because hot drinks and biscuits kind of are really the motor on which the poetry club runs. And then they just read them out at random. So if you want to join, you don't have to have poetry that you've already written.
No, not at all. I think to join, have an interest in poetry, have a willingness to have a go and write your own poems, have a willingness to listen to what other people are saying and their poetry, and be prepared to join in and have a really good time. It's very well run. I think it's led very nicely. We've got a volunteer who has been with us a long time now, and her poetry again is absolutely beautiful. But she's a very experienced volunteer, so the staff themselves are well used to running the poetry groups, and our volunteers as well. I think the way to do it is to contact Noel, and that would be Noel at together2012.org.uk.
And that's Noel, isn't
That's
it?
correct. And then say to Noel that you want to be part of the group and he'll organise it for you.
Thanks, Judy. That's really helpful. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, we're trying to sort out, because it's a very new system and it was the first time today, but we're trying to sort out a method of making sure that we've got a record of the poetry and the poems that people write and are contributing, so that we can add it to the Together 2012 website.
And funny you should mention the book, because as part of our Join In From Home programme, we have a poetry club activity, which is to write a poem on the theme of Together. And we'll be publishing those poems in a real book, well, I personally think an ebook is a real book, but we will be doing both a physical book and an ebook in the autumn in time for Disability History Month. Everybody who contributes will get a copy, and quite by chance,
Here's one I prepared earlier.
well, obviously, here's one I haven't quite prepared earlier. You may remember last week we saw on Friday a lovely painting by Mark Noble, which is on the Together TV highlights page, which is a sort of sub menu of the Together TV link. It's actually very easy to find us on our website. Once you've gone to together2012.org.uk, there's a main join in from home link that everything else kind of links through to. And there's also kind of sub menus and things that can make it a bit easier. So this is Mark's poem, Together. Together in perfect harmony, with a moon shining upon your sweet eyes, I can hear you calling softly in the wind, whispering joy, happiness, and harmony. We walk on the beach. I hear you calling from the heavenly stars. It's just like a dream, a warm wind blowing, softening your hair. It is timeless, never ending. Mark us as the morning star. Let us walk on the beach, hearing the waves softly crashing. It's like an everlasting harmony, because we are together until eternity. And thank you very much for sharing that, Mark. We really appreciate it. Keep them coming in. So we now have some poems that have been created as film poems. And I wanted to come back to you about this, Julie, because the Poetry Club have been doing all sorts of things from the beginning, haven't they? It actually started as part of a one-off project for 2012, which of course is how Together 2012 started. We ran a volunteer-led festival under the auspices of the UK Disabled People's Council, and then we were asked to carry on. But the poetry group started with Michelle Baharia and Coultan Arts coming in to do a whole week where we were looking at everything from podcasting, publishing, film poems. And then I think 3 years ago, we had a 2-day workshop as part of our film festival on film poetry with Zata Banks from the organisation Poetry Film, I think it's actually called. And it's a really, not every poem lends itself to film, but some of them really do. And of course, now Zoom is lending itself to performance. So the first poem we have, and I will just get it up and solo it, is from Pies and Malak.
Friends, we are isolated during this lockdown period. So I've written a poem called Isolation. Simply a measure of precaution to escape from the attack of COVID-19, to avoid the official quarantine that causes revolutionary of emotion, which is becoming out of proportion, having to stay at home, not allowed to roam, not allowed to mourn, as COVID-19 is extremely contagious and deadly dangerous. Just stay isolated and get frustrated, but safe from being infected. Isolation is a good training in valuing our strength, in maintaining our self-discipline and healthy living. Just rest after doing all the cleaning and eating. And isolation is a social distancing. Stay at home, relaxing, no shopping, no visiting, no acting, no dancing. You are in isolation. Just bear the motion. Learn to be patient while in isolation.
And that was fabulous, Pisa. Thank you so much. And
to be honest, Jude, just if I can interrupt you, just listening to Pisa, I would be so committed to anything that she told me to do. She has such a wonderful presence, and she's absolutely spot on, of course.
Well, I believe Pisa has been a school teacher in her past times, as well as an actor, and indeed has been associated with Grey Eye Theatre Company at the time, in different times. She's now part of Act Up Newham, so thank you to Hannah Facey for recording that and getting to us. And we also have a poem, a film poem, I should say, from Act Up Newham, and this is called We Love Newham. And I wanted to play it today to give us a little bit of a heads up that next week is the start of Newham Heritage Month. Newham Heritage Month should have taken place in May and consist of a lot of activities that brought people together in real life. But now it's been postponed to June, and it's got a lot of activities and some very, very interesting things about Newham coming up. So we'll be putting in a link to the Newham Heritage Month website. But this is one of the reasons why people love Newham.
We love Newham.
It's very scary what's happening with the coronavirus in Newham.
One weekend, Newham has the holidays. In my mind,
Shut.
Worried about my friends.
Newham is a good place to live.
We love Newham. I don't get any when I need it.
I am reading a book in the library.
I cycle over the green way. In West Wind, I can get everything I need in one night. We love the community.
The chicken shop.
Get to know people.
The teachers.
We go.
Wednesday.
In things and diamonds. It's a very friendly borough. We love Newham. I like meeting people in Newham.
I hope I live in Newham in the future.
We love Newham.
Well, that was great. What did you think?
I thought it was beautiful. I think you can't beat authenticity, and I think that came from everybody's heart, and I think everybody meant it, and I think that's what made it beautiful.
So I'm delighted to say that we're now going to be joined by Penny Pepper, who's our virtual writer in residence. Penny is going to be a regular on a Wednesday, which is just wonderful. So let's bring her into the conversation.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Penny.
Hi, Penny.
Hello.
And
I tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to talk, but we're going to put you on the screen so we can only see you. How about that?
Got my backdrop in.
It's wonderful. What a vision in pink. Can you still hear us and join in the conversation, Robin?
Yes, I'm here.
Brilliant, brilliant. What's the world of Penny Pepper like this week, Penny Pepper?
The world of Penny Pepper starts with me against my pink backdrop, and I've got a white dress on today, a nice fresh white dress for the sun in Hastings, and my hair is in a bun, a red bun with some flowers. And I enjoyed the description about glasses, Ju. So I have very light framed purple glasses. So just to fill everyone in on that.
Well,
I can feel that lockdown is changing, actually, Ju. Can you?
Sorry, say that again, Penny.
I can feel that the lockdown is starting to change. The atmosphere is different.
Yeah, it's not so much in Newham, but I think because we've had so many problems here. There's been groups who've just not taken lockdown seriously right from the start, who tend to be younger European, don't have great English, so I'm not sure they're actually getting the messages about quite how serious it is. But I think I've just assumed that it's all about old people and people of colour and nothing to do with them. And their behaviour has just been really difficult for me throughout, because if I want to go to my bins or I want to go into the back garden to pick up after the dogs, it's really hard when there are people out there sunbathing at the back and chatting on the phone. But no, I think in East London people are quite cautious at the moment, but it must have been dreadful over the weekend in Hastings.
It was quite busy, although I'm pleased to report that there were no major incidents on the beach. And I went down to look at the sea, and everyone was doing social distancing. It might be because we had such a low level. We're very proud of that, and the majority of people are still respecting that. I think it's in Hastings. It's mostly been troubled youth who gather on corners. I know youth tend to do that in many places. I used to gather on corners down
Yeah.
there. But,
We had a big fallen tree, but we still gathered.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just
that's what I really missed, is that we've usually got teenagers and preteens lurking on every corner, and actually they haven't been. I think people have been taking it, like you say, apart from the groups who possibly wrongly don't think it's got anything to do with them. But well, I guess what I was expecting is there's been so many kind of really thoughtless people coming out of the cities and blocking the beaches around the country. I wondered whether that was going to happen in Hastings, but it sounds like
it did on the first bank holiday badly. But of course, like everywhere, we still don't have any cafes or restaurants or anything like that open. So I think that to some extent is helping until it's safe, because there's nowhere to buy food or pretty much anything. A few takeaway outlets, but and you know, the councils and police and whatever are keeping an eye on that, because it will be good if we can stay with our low incidence of corona. It'd be good for me and many other disabled people and elderly people.
Absolutely. And I mean, as they keep pointing out, the hospital's treatment and what's available is based on the population that's there. The last thing they need is some kind of selfish middle class person from London spreading infection around the world. But let's move on from that. Before I start remembering my previous poems, sort of slightly bitterly about being in isolation, because I think it's true to say that whatever else happens, we will be shielding and on air for some time to come. But if you're watching this and you're also in the shielding group, don't worry, we will be here for the duration, because we're suckers for punishment and we really enjoy getting together and meeting new people and chatting on air. Pen, have you got a poem for us this week?
I have got a couple of poems. I wondered whether there was any particular theme you wanted me to address, or shall I do an old favourite, or any thoughts? Or shall I just surprise you?
Surprise us.
I like surprises.
I don't want to do anything too downbeat, I've decided this day. Okay, let's do. This is a short one. Did I do the fossil hunting? Have I done this one? I think
it doesn't ring any bells. And
No, I don't think so.
What we'll do, Peg, is after you've read this poem, we'll go to some other features and then we'll come back again for another poem at the end, which would be wonderful.
Yeah, that's fine. Fossil hunting. We were bold and brave that windy dawn by the dim and dancing sea of Dorset, its sand and shells and stones all singing. Bone and blood and bivalves stray here, and ghosts of great gone beasts gather by our hands, harassing the slate to hearts. There you go, and that's fossil hunting.
That was lovely, and it's really evocative, and I think that's one of the lovely things about having so much art and different things available, and indeed kind of webcams. You know, if you want to go to some obscure place to see bluebells, well, you could actually just watch a webcam and stay at home, keeping yourself and everybody else safe. So, Penny Pepper, we are going to say goodbye to you temporarily.
Okay.
And then it's time for this week's virtual Nature Watch with Precious Newman, where we send Julie's assistant's dog because mine is just not great at doing camera work. Julie's has taken to it, well, like you would expect from somebody who leads on our film work. So Precious goes out where we cannot go because of social distancing and shows us how things are getting on in my yard. So in fact, let's do...
So there she goes, straight out the door, following her brother. Oh, have a look around. Oh, goodness, I have to have a shake. There's a camera on my back. Hello, brother. What are you? Oh, you're going in. Oh, maybe I ought to go in. Oh, perhaps I should go in. Oh, right. All right then. That was quick. And wait, what's going to happen now? Oh, right, I'm going back out again. Brother, excuse me, brother, wait, oh, goodness, it's in the herb patch. Oh, he's having a look at the fence. Maybe there's something up there. Is there a bird? Oh, I don't know. Oh, no, maybe it's a worm. Oh, I know what. It's the dog next door. I'll call it. Hello, dog next door? No answer. Oh. I'll call it again. No answer. Oh, I'll have a look around. Still no answer. I don't know where my friend is next door. You all right? Hope you're all right. Are you there? It's me, Precious. I'm here. Yes. Where are you? Oh dear. Maybe they're not there. Oh, there's nobody around. Oh, it's just me and brother. But brother's so boring. He's in the herb patch. Digging. Yes. Oh, there he goes. Hello, hello, is Precious here? Hello, are you there? Friendies. No, they're not in. Hello, one last bark. Are you there? Hello. No, they're not there. Come on, brother, in we go. Let's go in.
Thank you for the commentary, Julie. And for anybody who couldn't see that, it's quite a small yard, but I think delightfully appointed. It has kind of mouldy green decking tiles over concrete, which I put my foot through yesterday. It's got gravel. It's got what is now known as vertical gardening, so lots of flowering shrubs. and a little sand pit and a little table with a parasol. So she potters around those. And indeed, that's exactly what the dogs do. They stand out there and shout. They cannot understand why they're not allowed to make a lot of noise if there are other people out there reenacting Eurovision every night. So it's a little bit tricky. And of course, we can't ever complain about any of the neighbours' noise because the dogs bark at it. But that is just how it is. So, Robin, did you have any thoughts on the outside world in the West Midlands? Is it as hot with you as it is down in London?
It is absolutely wonderfully hot. I must apologise that Josh has had to retire for the day. He's still not well, and I mean, we can come back to him in a minute, but yeah, he's had to take himself out of the studio.
Well, give
the
him
weather's
one of our best wishes because, and I think that's the important thing. You know, we stressed this last week actually as well. You know, if you don't feel well, you don't feel well. Don't ignore it. And if you really don't feel well, call the hospital. And not sure, phone the GP, phone NHS 111. Particularly if you're already a disabled person like us on the virtual sofa. You know, we all have good days and bad days, good hours and bad hours, and there have previously been occasions where it's quite a miracle that we've been on the screen.
I know, and
You know, yeah.
I think for Josh that the one of the problems we're going to have is that he doesn't have a GP in Birmingham because he fundamentally lives in Sheffield, or you know, up until this. So his GP is the uni GP in Sheffield. So I'm not quite sure if we do need to go that route actually, because nobody, you know, on the grounds that we've kind of, you know, very conscientiously shielded for the last 9-10 weeks, you know, going to a hospital is probably the worst thing we could have, you know, to do.
Well, Penny was very clear last week that when she went, it was very, very safe, and I've heard very encouraging things. You can always phone the hospital or the doctor and check the arrangements, you know, but it shouldn't put people off. But there's
No.
lots of video consultations being offered at the moment. I think it's a really good point. There's a lot of people who, for whatever reason, are not staying in the place that they usually stay, but have been religiously following instructions to stay in that one single spot, whether they get ill, whether they have childcare demands or anything else. And some of those people will be outside the area for their usual GP, particularly all of these students that have come back. As I understand it, Julie, you can simply register as a temporary patient with any GP. They have to admit you if they've got space on the list. And if you've got a family GP and you have a young person staying with you, that is entirely kind of straightforward process. If it's not, then there are complaints procedures. But again, don't let that stop you getting health treatment if it's necessary. So usually at this point, well, in fact, at this point, we will do what we always do, which is race our clockwork toys to see which teddy bear gets to wear a gold medal for the next week. But I just wanted to say we do this for two reasons. One is that the Surgeoners are the most competitive family in the world, or so they claim. We're all missing our sport, but particularly the Paralympians in the West Midlands. So we have a Paralympics with a bit of a misspelling, and we race our clockwork toys. We also do this as part of the virtual bear hunt. And I was just so pleased to discover that, and now, of course, his name is going to completely disappear from my lips, but the author of the bear hunt is now out of intensive care after what was something like 6 weeks. So we're all very pleased you're feeling better, and indeed we'll remember your name before the end of the programme. So for anybody who doesn't know about the Worldwide Bear Hunt, it's mostly about putting teddy bears in windows for children on their daily exercise to be able to find. We do it virtually and pretty much swap bears every week, although I can see that I'm getting to the point where the bears are either going to get smaller and smaller, or some of them are going to reappear. Behind me is Nigel, who is a little blue handmade teddy in pale blue fake fur with a little white snout. And he's wearing an old cat collar, which is black with little luminous eyes.
Okay.
Your teddy.
We do. And so continuing the tradition of non-teddy teddies, this is Muzzy. If there are any younger people watching, Muzzy is actually part of a language learning app thing from the BBC, and he goes on lots of adventures and learns foreign languages. So he's a very clever teddy, but I don't know how good he is at running yet.
Well, I'm just going to add back into the stream for a minute. Penny Pepper.
Yay.
Yes, there she is, her teddy. So, which team is the teddy supporting, Penny?
Remind me of what they are again.
Well, at the moment, we only have, so you can hardly see me. At the moment, we have London 2012 versus Birmingham 2022. But what I can see, and this will make it much more interesting, is as you're going to be our regular Wednesday guest, we should have 3 competitors from next week. In the meantime, as Robin has lost Josh, I think you're probably supporting Birmingham.
Oh,
Okay. My ancestors are from Birmingham, so I will support Birmingham.
Can I?
Michael Braxton, I'm so sorry to Michael, but like we say, we are thrilled that you are feeling better. So, first of all, before I put the film up, how are you identifying your competitor? Do you want the racing granny on the right or the left, or with the red or blue knee blanket?
we're going with sticking with the blue knee blanket.
Okie doke. This will be a very short race, but just with a little bit of audio description. It starts off with me on my knees, setting down the racing grannies. I'm in the doorway. They're about to race across the rug, and you can see some mirrors and some soundproofed walls and the kind of things you might expect in the studio. It's a very short run because it is basically a sprint. So tell me the knee colour again, Robin.
Blue knees, blue blanket.
Okay, so that's the one on what I would call on the left.
As we look.
No, no.
Yay!
Oh dear. Oh, we were a non-starter, Jew. That
Oh no, that was tragic on behalf of the red team. I feel so. In the best sporting things, you must be gutted.
Maybe I'm not. I'm quite a competitive person in my own way, but not to Paralympic standard. So I think Nigel is just happy to be on the live stream. What did you really think, Penny?
Sorry, say that again.
Was your Teddy impressed by that?
My Teddy was very impressed. He's as old as me. From my pram when I was 3 months old. This Teddy, so he's
quite young.
He's getting on a bit, but he's very happy that we won.
But he looks new and gorgeous, and yeah, he's obviously as glamorous as his owner. What more can I
don't know. He's well looked after, though. He has been well loved and looked after.
He's been brilliant.
He's been in hospital a few times. He's had eyes replaced and all sorts, but yeah, his head's a bit wobbly, but he's hanging in there.
I've got one teddy bear. Yeah, I've got a small collection of little furry cats, and one of them, the head just keeps rolling off whatever I do. It's rather disconcerting. I thought yours was going to come off, but no, it's just wobbly. So usually at this point, Josh would be presenting the week's roundup of virtual sport and gaming. Robin, has he had a chance to pass any of that on to you?
Of course not. However, well, I mean, in fairness, I mean, we've discussed that he's not so well, and that's kind of he had kind of 4 days in bed and then managed to be up for a day and a half. He did his Viva this morning for his PhD, which he passed, which means he can now go on to the next stage of his PhD, which is good.
Yeah, we all want to congratulate Josh there. And I
Yeah.
think we've seen Josh on a bit of a journey from when at the end of March he'd first come home and it wasn't clear what was going to be going on to actually have progressed it as far as the exam. I mean, I hope that's one of the things around lockdown that is progressing. It may not be safe to go back to school, and I would say around here it certainly isn't, but at least people are moving on. And I think it's important to remember teachers have been working, haven't they, since the beginning and setting lessons and everything else. It's just physical school. We don't have to tell Robin because he has a teenager who he's had to support through this.
Yeah, I mean, her school's been great, really, actually. And they're doing everything through Teams, through Microsoft Teams, and a digital platform that they've got kind of that the school had anyway. So it's kind of good. It's just a bit strange, really, for them. In terms, I mean, I have got a little bit of sports stuff.
And then we'll talk more poetry.
Okay, so just to say that, the virtual sport seems at the moment to be predominantly motorsport. There's now Formula One, Formula E, GP motorbike racing. So, Julie, you'll be absolutely delighted if you just search virtual sports. And, of course, gambling, which we can't condone, but there seems to be a huge amount of that available. I think that's the one negative. If you search virtual gaming, you just get 5,000 casinos that then start sending you pop-ups. I mean, in actual real sports news, they in the usual lack of equality, they've cancelled the women's football season, but not yet cancelled the men's football season. Although there seem to be lots of incidences of footballers having COVID, but also announcing today they're going back to contact training. So, this is money talking, I imagine. Some of the higher level elite, I think we talked last week that, they are looking at trying to get elite swimming or elite sport, players back into some sense of training. And they've started announcing kind of shortlists and the amount of available spaces in very controlled situations for training to take place. But on the kind of the everybody else swimming level, certainly Swim England put an announcement out this morning to say that there will be no domestic competitions whatsoever before 2021. So although even if people are back in the pool in July or September, they want people to be able to train and get fit again properly, rather than being rushed by coaches to be, why aren't you racing as fast as you were kind of thing, or, kids having, and young people, and, but having kind of getting upset because they can't swim like they used to, or they can't run like they used to. So I think it's actually, it's almost the kind of the opposite approach to the professional football league. In as much as what they're saying is, protecting the long-term health of the athletes is by far and away the more important aspect than getting to a race in September or October.
I think it's like Penny was saying about lockdown changing. There's an expectation that we can do everything that other countries are doing without an understanding that actually we've got much, much higher levels of infection. We talked about the Paralympics and the Olympics, and and I think Japan is still being very realistic now about saying, well, it may not go ahead at all. But if you look at how Japan has managed to deal with the infection, I think the death rate is, every death really matters. And I hate it when you hear people saying, oh, it's just such and such now. But I think less than 1,000 people have died directly as a result of COVID in Japan. Of course, they're going to have different changes. And, unfortunately, the more we do now, the more the infection will spread later. And then we kind of get thrown back to sort of square one where everybody else is moving forward again. So it sounds really
Can I just say as well, I found on the internet a mixture of art and sport, which I thought was quite interesting, and that was a showing of Swan Lake with the individual ballet performers doing it from their baths. So I thought,
As you do.
I haven't checked it out yet, but I will do for Friday because I think that's unmissable. I think that sounds absolutely wonderful.
Ballet dancers in their baths.
Yeah, that's a good time to flag up Friday. And on Friday, we always have a feature called Something for the Weekend where we recommend other free online activities to you. And of course, we also have dressing up to go out to stay in, where we put an outfit on for any kind of fictional or non-fictional activity, given that it's all fictional because we're shielding.
Can I also just say, because by Friday it'll be finished, but the BBC Spring Watch is on each evening this week, and it's wonderful. It is absolutely joyous to see the beavers, the foxes, the range of birds, the insects, the fields, and it's all being filmed very, very sensibly, recognizing social distancing. And it's also, I think, a very nice insight into the individuals presenters and their lives. I think it's unmissable. So if anybody's interested in being outside from indoors, then do check it out because I think it's well worth it.
I mean, I don't know if you can hear it from there, but we've got birds going mad in our garden. You can hear cheeping in the background. It is just because the patio door's open, and it's so glorious out there, and the birds are just loving it.
Oh yeah, we can actually, because of course you just had to switch your microphones at the last minute, didn't you? And indeed,
Yeah.
Yes, we can. I haven't got any birds in my garden. Julie's, when she's at home, we had some beautiful bird song in sort of back in January, February. But our assistant's dogs are Westie Poodle crosses, which means they're like terriers on springs. And they just see birds as flying rats. And the first summer we had them, they were only a few weeks old. The second summer, there were various deaths, and I had to take out my bird. I keep very high up places for the birds to water and wash, but all the feeders had to come out, sadly. But you can also get very cheap nest box cameras, and although we did sort of say last night watching Spring Watch where this crow was coming along and eating the goose eggs, that perhaps all of the fuss that they'd made putting the camera in had drawn the attention of everybody to the nest in the first place. But yeah, I think it's a very healthy way of enjoying the outside world without putting yourself or anybody else at risk. There is, in my book, no excuse for driving to a beauty spot. You can do every kind of exercise at home. But yeah, and Jimmy's farm in the spring, which they've had on for a few weeks, I don't know I think it's now finished. But again, you had Jimmy and a few people holding cameras and totally distancing whenever they could. When, of course, as they were trying to deliver a pig, it was a little bit difficult, and you could see the challenges. But yeah, there's just something really enjoyable about it, and I felt so sorry in terms of Spring Watch when you saw the kind of blossoming of all the flowers and things and nature, of thinking all it takes is these middle class idiots in their cars to be piling down there because they can't go anywhere else, and this sort of brief little period of heaven for the animals and for nature is just going to be destroyed. So yeah, for nature's sake as well, stay home, stay creative, and stay well.
Absolutely. And I mean, we continue to stay home, as in fact, apart from trying to make my car battery charged and failing, in fact, we haven't been out at all. So it's a bit strange. And I was thinking, I was out earlier thinking our garden is big enough for someone to stand 30 meters away from us for social distancing, but you're just thinking, golly, is it worth it? Why take a risk, kind of thing. But and I'm very sure that Joshua's ailment has got nothing to do with COVID. I just think it's being stuck in the house and perhaps stressing about his RF2.
Well, I think that Penny's looking, for anybody who can't see, Penny is looking so glamorous and smiley and beautiful.
I'm waving.
Oh, waving as well.
I just wanted to say about my birds, which I would love to film for you. I'm so lucky. I kind of annexed a piece of my area where I live. It's along the side of my windows. It's not used by anyone. Technically, it's not garden, but let's just say it is now. So I'm trying to get the housing association to put a little gate in. And every single day I have a whole huge crowd of sparrows who torment my cat. Actually, she's not really up to it, but she likes sitting beneath the bird feeder, and they chat away. It is wonderful. I've also got swifts, and if you're lucky and you can look out at your sky, which is a great thing on the coast, you can see the pattern they fly, and they just fly in a circle and then always come back to, it's either this house or the one down, and you just think that is such a sound of spring.
It's
that
like a
I'm,
dance,
I'm
isn't it, Pen? When the
Sorry?
swallows fly, it's like a dance. It's like when the starlings fly.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's magic, and we should all value that, I think. So, also a Spring Watch fan.
Yeah, that reminds me, there's a really wonderful, groundbreaking dance film, and I must try and research it. It's a few years old, but that's exactly that. They used all of these different shots from nature and showed just how much that was like a dance. And, it was absolutely great. What I see from my window when I open it up, Pen, is helicopters.
Oh dear.
And for some reason they're back again. And yes, what they form a pattern. They have kind of holding pattern around Canning Town, and round and round and round they go. Practically
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's not as sinister as when this Nightingale was open and nobody was flying, but what you used to hear late at night was helicopters and planes bringing patients over. It was almost like sort of last thing the patients would be moved. But I do wonder now what they're gaining from constantly flying helicopters over Canning Town. But there's the big birds, but that's my contribution. All these sparrows and swifts and everything. Well, darling, we have helicopters.
There's more traffic, Ju.
There is definitely more traffic, which is fine. But in fact, I think City Airport officially is still pretty much closed. It's certainly closed to domestic traffic. Did we want
Can
to?
I?
Yes, please.
Can I share something,
Please
Ju?
do.
I'm going to read a little it's what's called a flash fiction from this anthology called The Spark. But what I wanted to do is to do a big call out to our disabled writers everywhere that Creative Future, which is the organisation that do this literary award, they're on the back here. If you do Creative Future, you'll find them if you Google them.
But we'll put it
They
on
are,
the highlights page at the end of the show as well.
yeah, Creative Future run this award every year for marginalised writers, which includes those who lack opportunity due to mental health issues, disability, health challenges, or social circumstances. And I think they are a wonderful organisation. It closes this year's competition to win an award closes on the 31st. And I would have shared that earlier if I'd realised, because it's a great thing for anyone to do if you haven't had anything published or fiction. It was one of the first pieces of fiction I've ever had published, and I'll read that in a minute. But I'm on a bit of a crusade at the moment to get the disability voice out there. As you know, I do believe everyone should join in. I believe in the process of writing as very beneficial. But out of a group of people, there may be one or two who want to take it further. And this is a good way to go. Do poetry or short fiction.
So I think, well, we'll bring the show towards an end, and we'll say our goodbyes, and then perhaps we could finish with Penny reading from there, or did you want to read us another poem? Because I remember,
No,
I remember,
I'd like. Sorry, Joe. Yeah.
I remember you coming to do a workshop for Together 2012. Again, in more usual times, we run a festival in the winter in Disability History Month, but we also run a program called Summer Together, which is focused on emerging disabled artists and professional development. And Penny has given at least 2 workshops. But I loved the one that you did about, is it called Flash Fiction? I'd never heard about it. I never understood that there were these clubs where, or club nights, you could go along and you get challenged and you write and you go on stage. And I really, really loved it. I haven't written any more than the story that I actually wrote in your workshop, but I really did enjoy it.
Flash fiction is an art because you don't want it to be a vignette or an anecdote, but it is actually a good way to get yourself fired up, if you like, and to give yourself encouragement, because most of them are 500 words maximum. They go down to 100 words. The theme or the approach is that they still have a beginning, a middle, and an end, which can be in a description and one line of dialogue. But I would really encourage people to experiment with Flash. It's very well liked because we live in that kind of age where people like little snappy things to do. There's a lot of Flash that is used on phone apps and for laptops and tablets, and that's what it suits. It's a great thing to do, and I would love to come back and do another workshop, of course, anytime.
In the meantime, well, we'll definitely be looking at doing some virtual workshops, and in the meantime, maybe next week we could think about, if you wouldn't mind, Penny, setting a Flash Fiction challenge. So to give you time to read, I'm going to say a goodbye from East London, and just to remind people, we would love to see your photos and your videos of anything you've done at home. It doesn't have to be one of the activities on our Join In From Home program. Poems, films, animations, stories, we would love to see it all and to share it with our viewers. So please keep sending them in. And also, you're dressing up to go out to stay in, photos and videos for Fridays. Julie?
I'm going to say goodbye, but Pen, I'd really love it if you could film your birds. I think that would be.
I would try.
I would try. So lovely.
Yeah, I'll share them.
And thank you for coming along. It's lovely to see you again, Penny.
Yeah, thank you for asking me, both of you. Always a pleasure.
Robin?
Yeah, hopefully Josh is going to be better. You don't really want our birds because I think it would be, without sounding too improper, it would currently be pigeon porn, because that seems to be what's going on. A lot of flapping in the trees. And on that note, I will say goodbye from Sutton Coldfield on behalf of Josh and myself, and we'll see you Friday.
So here to finish is the very wonderful Penny Pepper.
Uncle's gold pen. I stare. The pen is on the table. I haven't seen it for so many years. It glints as the sun dances through the window. My eyes are transfixed. Uncle's gold pen. A blackbird sings and I jolt myself back to now. I click on my wheelchair and go closer. I dart my hand forward and the sun hits my skin. Sparks waltz around the pen, but I can't make myself touch it. Not yet. He wasn't a real uncle, he was Mum's man friend. He visited when Dad left, as he often did. Dad yelled hate that we dragged him down, that I was the spaz kid he should have got the bitch to abort. We enjoyed the quiet life when he was gone. My books came out from hiding, the books he threatened to burn. Uncle Ray was a quiet man with dark hair and olive skin. Auntie said he was a foreigner. I didn't care. He spoke nicely, bought Mum flowers which made her smile. Shame Mum always forgave Dad when he reappeared, and the nightmare spun on. I remember the last time I saw Uncle Ray. He'd got wind of Dad coming back and was retreating. I was impossibly sad, but he smiled and presented me with a pen. It was fat and gold and marvellous. A wand of magic in my unsteady hand. The words flew, sparks of fire. I wrote a poem, I wrote a story. Every day there were more, until one day a book on a shelf and in a shop. The first of many. The pen went into a dusty drawer, along with memories of that gentle man. At last, I pick up the shining pen and notice underneath there's a note from my brother Michael. It says, "Hello, Hannah. I found Uncle Ray." Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.